So as you look at the independent reading task for this week, it should be just like last week. So this is week 2 of us reading after our Unit 2 book. So it should not be your Unit 2 book anymore. You've either chosen option 1, you've moved on to a different book, or option 2, you've been reading the news. And there's some really good links in there to sites like the New York Times and the Associated Press and All Sides, which takes you to sites from the left and center and right. And so look at a variety of angles, look at articles, don't just scroll through an app, but dig in this week, okay? Devote that 15 minutes, set it aside. If you want to do more than that, that's great. I know a lot of you are probably reading a ton just because you have the time now, but if you're not, or you've struggled in the past, like this is a great chance to really build that habit and take advantage of it. You can see as well, there's an optional task. This is for your Table Wars teams. It should take about 10 minutes. Each person contributes one thing, and you'll send it to me. And you're going to find some examples of poetic devices and the things that you've been reading throughout the week. So read those directions carefully and closely. Part of the task is to read closely. So if you don't follow the directions, no points for you. Okay. As you look, then the focus for our week this week is going to be on poetry. And so our thinking is going to be in that direction. There's not really a full-blown writing task this week, so I apologize. But we'll do a little bit of writing at the end, just not a big formal thing. So the first piece of this, I'm going to do a live teaching on Tuesday at 3. You can join me there, or there'll be a link where you can watch the recording of it. Just kind of walking through where we are in the curriculum, what we're trying to learn about analysis, how poetry will help us with that, what our questions are as we look at poems, and where we're headed. So I'm just going to walk through that information on Tuesday. Then there's a poetry exploration task. It should look like this. And I'm just going to read through these directions with you. And that way, if you've got questions, maybe I can address them. It says, to celebrate National Poetry Month, we'll spend the next 2 weeks exploring some poems and some issues related to the world of poetry. Our essential questions: is poetry more or less relevant in our modern technological world? And what is poetry? To address these, we will look at 2 ways poetry intersects with our contemporary culture, through social media and through popular music, and you'll choose one of the paths below. So that's the first thing. You'll go one direction, okay? Like the band, One Direction. You will either investigate poetry through its relationship with social media and look at the rise of Insta poets who've been kind of popular since 2017, maybe a little bit less in the last year, but it's still a trend, if you will. Or you can look at Kendrick Lamar, who won the Pulitzer Prize in 2018. And we're thinking about poetry's relationship to popular music there. And so this asks you to look at context by clicking through these links and reading about Insta poets or Kendrick Lamar. So that's the task, is to read those articles, get a sense of the context of those stories and what's going on with their poetry. There's a space to explore the actual poetry. So this one has specific examples from the Insta poets, and this one has specific examples from Kendrick Lamar's lyrics. So I want you to actually dig in and look at their writing, whichever path that you choose. There's some space to think. Again, I'm trying to get your Table Wars teams to connect a little bit this week and text them maybe, or if you use a different medium, try that. But just try to reach out to people and see what they think of this stuff. Okay. And then lastly, there's space to respond. You'll click on the Padlet to respond, and you'll choose, I think it says it, but you'll choose 3 of the topics. There's 5. You'll choose 3 of them to respond to briefly. Most of them will probably take a few sentences to reply to. It's meant to be brief. So so you're going to do 3 brief ones, which if you put them together would be a decent, example of your thinking. And then at some point it asks you to go back and read other people's once they've had a chance to post as well, and choose a handful to like. You can like, I think, your star or hearted or something like that, right? And so that's the end of that. And so as you look back at this sheet, that's this piece, and really these 2 parts. There's teaching, there's exploring, and then there's posting. So I just tried to break it down so you could see that visually, okay? I think that's everything. you can see that the Table Wars task challenges are below. Again, those are optional, but a fun way maybe for your teams to reconnect and perhaps get out of that final writing challenge this year.